Well, hey there, kiddos. I'm sorry that I had to be gone again today, but this is how we're going to make sure you don't miss anything really important. We're going to talk about some SAT and ACT questions. There is an ACT administration this Saturday, and some of you are going to be taking that. And if you're not, some of you are going to be taking it at some point during the year, so it's good to get used to these kinds of questions and see them. So here are some strategies that you need to follow. They're on the front of your booklet. Number one, make up numbers. Make up numbers and plug them in. We will have a couple of problems today where that's going to be our strategy and how to solve it. Number two, read the full question. Read the entire thing, beginning to end. Don't make assumptions about what it's asking. Read it. Make sure you know. Number three, estimate the answer. That's pretty self-explanatory. Estimate what is happening. You can probably make a pretty good guess based on information and do a good estimation. Number four, plug in the answer choices. So you're given answer choices, plug them into what you're given in the problem and see which one works. And number five, rate the difficulty. Start with the easiest ones. Do those really easy ones first. Make sure that you get those out of the way so that when you get to the harder ones, it's not such a big deal if you miss those because you make sure you got all the easy ones right. Now to the differences between the SAT and ACT. There are definitely more than this, but I listed three. The ACT is definitely more algebra based. Most of the questions, there's a lot more factoring, there's a lot more solving equations than there are in the SAT. The SAT is changing that, and they're moving more towards an ACT type test where it is more algebra based, but currently it's the other way around. The ACT has some trig on it. We won't do any of those problems today, but there are some trig questions, but the SAT doesn't have any. And then the ACT has a science section and the SAT doesn't. Now, like I said, there are more differences than that. Those are just the ones that I'm going to hit on, and then we're going to do some actual math. So open your book. We're going to talk about a couple of problems. The first one's just really straightforward. You were given an equation that says if f of x plus 3 equals 9x plus 4, then x equals. So I just have to solve this equation for x, find out what it equals. This is an Algebra 1 type question, so I would definitely rate the difficulty of this problem. It should be a minus sign, I apologize. I would rate the difficulty of this question as pretty easy because it's just a multi-step equation that has variables on both sides of the equal sign. You know how to solve it. So we're going to do that by combining all our x's, getting them on the same side. I always take the smaller one and move it over to the bigger one so that I can keep everything positive if possible. So I'm going to get rid of this 4x by subtracting 4x from over here and then from the right side of the equal sign. So this gives me 3 equals 5x minus 4. And then the next step, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I have 7 equals 5x. And then when I divide both sides by 5, I just get that 7/5 equals x. You can divide this out and get the decimal or turn it into a mixed number, but look at your answer choices. They are not decimals or mixed numbers. They're all fractions. Some of them are improper, some of them are not, but it doesn't matter. You're looking for the one that says 7/5. A is your answer. This is one of those where if you didn't know what to do, you could plug in answer choices. You could take 7/5 and plug it in for x and see if the left side really did equal the right side and until you got to an answer that worked. That's one way to do that, or you could just solve it algebraically. Now the next question is an integer problem. It says the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is k. Then in terms of k, what is the greatest of the 3 integers? Now we could do this algebraically, but there's an easier way to approach this problem. If you look at our strategies, strategy number 1 was make up numbers. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make up numbers. I've got 3 consecutive odd integers, which means I have 3 odd numbers in a row. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make up 3 consecutive odd numbers. Start with easy ones, 1, 3, and 5. That's 3 consecutive odd numbers because they're 3 odd numbers and they all happen in a row. Now I'm going to find out what the sum of those is. So I'm going to add them up. 1 plus 3 is 4 plus 5 equals 9. So what I know right now is that k equals 9. And the largest of my integers is 5. I just made them up. Those are the 3 numbers I wanted them to be. But because of what it tells me in my problem, if these are my 3 numbers that makes k equal 9, I could have picked any 3 numbers I wanted as long as they were 3 consecutive odd integers. I am going to now plug what I know about k into my answer choices and see which one gives me 5 as the greatest integer. Okay? So if I plug 9 into this first one, I get 9 minus 6 divided by 3, which gives me 3 divided by 3, which is not 5. That makes 1, so it's not A. So we'll check B. So I have to do 9 minus 3 divided by 3, which gives me 6 divided by 3, which is 2, not 5. C is pretty simple. It's just 9 divided by 3, which makes 3, not 5. D, I have 9 plus 3 divided by 3. Well, 9 plus 3 is 12 divided by 3, which is 4, not 5. And then I have 9 plus 6 divided by 3. That gives me 15 divided by 3, and if I divide that, that equals 5. So I picked 3 numbers that were consecutive odd integers. I added them up and got that they equaled 9. So my sum right here, which is supposed to be k, is 9, so k equals 9. If I'd have picked 3 other integers, I could have done the same thing. I just would have been looking for a different value when I plugged in. Just pick 3 numbers. Make it work. Alright, so the next one says for all pairs of real numbers m and v, where m equals 3v plus 6, then v equals. Well, that means I'm going to take this equation, m equals 3v plus 6, and I'm going to get v by itself because I want to know what v is. So I'm going to start by subtracting 6 from both sides. So I have m minus 6 equals 3v, and then I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I have m minus 6 divided by 3 equals v. And so then if I look at my answer choices, right here, D says m minus 6 divided by 3 equals v. So I just took what they gave me, solved it for v. Alright, now the next problem I am going to solve algebraically. I'm told that if 3a equals b, 2b equals c, 3c equals d, and a times b times c times d does not equal 0. So if I multiply them all together, I can't get 0, which means none of my numbers can be 0. What is the value of d divided by a? So I'm going to just look at what I'm given, and I'm going to plug in what I know. Okay? So I know right now that d equals 3c. So instead of d, I can put 3c. So I'm going to just start replacing. Now a, I'm going to have to come over here to this equation, 3a equals b, and I need a by itself. Well, to do that, I have to divide by 3 here and divide by 3 here, so I end up with a equals b divided by 3. Well, this gives me, I'm dividing by a fraction, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal of that fraction. So I'm going to write it like this. Turn my 3c over 1, and then the reciprocal of that fraction is 3b, so that I can now multiply. That's just a basic fraction rule. To divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. Or you keep change flip, however you learn that. So we'll multiply the numerators, which gives me 9c. Multiply the denominators, which gives me b. I still don't know what d divided by a is. I don't have a value, but I do know that up here, c is equal to 2b. So up here in this problem, I can now replace that c with a 2b. So I have 9 times 2b divided by b. And the reason why this is important is because now I have all these b's and I'm going to be able to cancel. This makes 18b divided by b. Well, the b's will cancel out, and so the value of d divided by a is 18. That's probably one of the harder ones we're going to deal with today, because I had to do a lot of manipulating, but really everything that I did was just multiplying and dividing with fractions. You had some variables in there, and that's okay, but what I did was I looked at what I was given, and I took what I knew about what I was given and plugged it into that d over a, so I could eventually get down to something that had the same variables and cancel some things out. So let's look at a few more. So the next one says that if 3x plus 1 equals 9 squared, what's the value of x squared? Well, the first thing that has to happen is, since I have two things that involve exponents, I'm going to have to make sure that they have the same base, which means since this one's a 3, I need this one to be a 3. And so I'm going to leave this as 3 to the x plus 1. Now to make a 9 so that it has that 9 so that my base is a 3. Well, 9 is the same thing as 3 squared. So I'm going to rewrite that 9 as 3 squared. Now I have similar bases. But I also, that 9 was squared, so I have 3 squared, which is 9 squared. Now I'm going to use my properties of exponents. It tells me that when I have a problem written like this, I have to multiply the exponents. So I end up with 3 to the x plus 1 equals 3 to the 4th, because 2 times 2 is 4. Now to figure out what needs to happen from here, now they have like bases, I can just pull the exponents down. X plus 1 equals 4 and solve for x. Well, that will tell me that x equals 3. So to figure out the value of x squared, I'm going to plug it in. 3 squared, that clearly equals 9, so the answer is C. So I had to first make sure they had like bases, simplified it, and then I just took the exponents on my like bases and set them equal to one another, used what I found out to plug into what they were asking me to look for. Another thing that you could do is plug in your answer choices. To take a little bit of work here, because remember that these values represent x squared, so you would have to unsquare them first, and then you could plug them in and see if they equal the same thing. But the best thing to do is give them a like base, set the exponents equal to each other, and solve. Alright, the next one. A company rents moving vans for a rental fee of $25 per day with an additional charge of 30 cents per mile that the van is driven. Which of the following expressions represents the cost in dollars of renting a van for 1 day and driving it m miles? Well, for 1 day, that's going to cost me $25. It says so in the problem. Then it also says that it's 30 cents per mile. Well, my miles are m, so plus 30 cents per mile. So I'm going to look through my answer choices. This one's backwards, but it says the same thing mine does, so I'm willing to bet, hey, look, that's probably going to be my answer, but let's double check again. This one has the m in the wrong place. This one looks sort of like my answer, but it doesn't have the decimal in the 30, so this is telling me it's $30 a mile. That's not going to be it. This added the 25 and the 30 cents. That doesn't work. And this took the decimal off again and added, and so A is the correct answer. You got a 30 cents per mile plus $25. Again, that's a basic Algebra 1 kind of question. Alright, so this next one says, what two numbers should be placed in the blanks below so that the difference between consecutive numbers is the same? Well, I'm going to use my answer choices here and my calculator to see which ones are the same. So I'm going to just go up here, I'm going to plug in what I know. Well, if this is 23 and this is 29, well, I'm going to do the easy one first. The difference between these two is 6. In order for them all to be the same, this difference also has to be 6, which is good, but this difference has to be 6, and it is not. This difference is bigger than 6, so it can't be those two numbers. So I know it's not that. So I'm going to grab two other numbers, and I'm going to plug them in, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to plug in my 24 and 34. Well, that means that I have to have a difference of 10, because that's what that difference is. Well, the difference between 17 and 24 is only 7. So those don't have the same difference either. So we have to do it again. I'll plug in the next two, 25 and 33. And the difference from 25 to 33 is 8. So I have plus 8 here, and so then I go check my next difference. Well, from 17 to 25, that's also 8. And from 33 to 41 is also 8. So these all have the same difference. If I, go look at them, they all are the same. And so the difference between consecutive integers or consecutive numbers is the same. So there is my answer. So we're going to do one more. I know that there are 2 more questions on here, and they are geometry questions, but if you look at them really closely, they are not labeled. You can't really tell what's going on. We don't have all the information that we need, so we're not going to do those 2 geometry questions. We're going to deal with the stuff that's algebra based, because that's where we are. We're in Algebra 2. And then you're going to do some practice. So the last one, Carla's friends are buying her a juicer for her birthday. The juicer costs J dollars, and the cost is to be split equally among her friends. In terms of J, which means J needs to be in my answer, How many fewer dollars will each person pay if 5 friends are splitting the cost instead of 4? The easiest way to do this problem is to use one of those strategies from the beginning, and we're just going to make up numbers like we did with that consecutive number integer problem at the very beginning. We're going to make up numbers. So we need an amount for the juicer to cost. And when I look at my problem, I know that I'm going to have to either split it into 5 people or to 4 people. So I want a number, just to make it easy on myself, that's divisible by 5 and by 4. So the easiest one I could think of is 20. So I want my juicer to be $20. And so that means that if 5 people buy the juicer, it's $20 divided by 5, so each person would have to pay $4. And if 4 people split the juicer, it's $20 divided by 4 people, so it's $5. And so the question says, how many fewer dollars will each person pay if 5 friends split it than instead of 4 friends? Well, from the information that I have, if 5 friends split it instead of 4 friends, the difference is $1. So I need it to be $1 different. So what I'm going to do is take this information about my juicer, my 20 bucks that I said it was going to be, and I'm going to plug them into each one of these until I get the one that equals $1. Because that is how many fewer dollars they will pay if 5 people buy it instead of 4. So I'm going to use my magical $20. I'm going to plug it in. Well, 9 times 20 is not going to equal 1. If you don't believe me, put it in your calculator. Well, the next one, I'd have to do 9 times 20 and then divide it by 20. Well, that's just going to take me back to 9, because if I take 9 times the 20 and then divide by 20 again, I'm just undoing that. So let's go back to 9. So that's not it. If I plug it into here, 20 divided by 4, well, we already did that math problem. It was 5. That's not it. 20 divided by 5, well, we did that problem too. That's 4. That's not it. The last one, 20 divided by 20. Oh, looky there. 20 divided by 20. That gives me 1. This would be the one that would be the difference. And the easiest way to do this is to just make up a number. I picked 20 because it would be divisible by 5 and by 4. But you could pick any number that you wanted. That just gave me whole numbers to work with instead of decimals or fractions. And we all like whole numbers instead of decimals and fractions. So don't worry about the 2 geometry questions that are at the end. You're going to go to your practice. You're going to look at the practice that's going to be given to you by the sub. And that's what you're going to work on. And tomorrow when you come in, I will answer questions over the SAT, ACT questions. We'll answer questions over transformations, and we'll talk about a couple of other things. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.